Okay, so about a week ago, I actually got to see Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. If you've watched any of the videos on this channel, you're probably aware of the fact that I did not like The Last Jedi at all for some very particular reasons, and that my favorite film of the sequel trilogy thus far until last week was The Force Awakens. And it still is. Because I also hate The Rise of Skywalker. I am one of those guys who's still very, very disappointed in it and finds it, frankly, horribly inadequate as a movie for the series started by The Force Awakens. I will, however, say that I also understand how it is also, for some people, an inadequate sequel to The Last Jedi, even though I also hate that movie. And you know what? Kind of looking back over it, I've kind of figured out what one of my main issues is with the sequel trilogy going forward. Kylo Ren. Or Ben Solo, or whoever. The guy played by Adam Driver. Adam Driver is a great actor, and he does a good job with what he's got, but what he's got is a schizophrenic mess across 3 films that has no real consistency, has some very different creative ideas, and kind of poisons itself all across the board for each film. Like, understand, overall, in some ways, each sequel trilogy movie is a hazard to the other sequel trilogy movies. And probably the biggest person to both benefits and also hurt from this is Kylo Ren and kind of the impact he has on the story and the impact he has on the main character, Rey. Basically, I kind of feel they accidentally poisoned and handicapped Rey because they didn't know what they were doing with Kylo. I mean, if you watch The Force Awakens, Kylo Ren is basically just the most loathsomely evil bad guy you could possibly want for a movie. It's great. He's so much fun to hate because he's so despicable. I mean, they kind of tried to one-up Darth Vader in every single way here in The Force Awakens versus Vader's entrance in A New Hope. I mean, in A New Hope, Vader walks in as a commanding, violent, and evil presence, and he does kill a guy flat out, just chokes him to death while interrogating him, and then he does torture Leia off-screen. And then he also, helps them blow up a planet and then tries to kill the main character. Like, that's evil. But Kylo Ren takes it up a notch. Kylo Ren walks in, immediately walks up to an unarmed old man, and murders him for getting back talk about how his family's supposed to be better than he is. He then orders a mass murder. Like, when Vader killed the guys on the ship, they were actually firing back, and they were rebel spies. Here, Kylo Ren has just taken over a village, and he's just ordering a mass murder, just flat out. Also, I'll point this out, he's also being contrasted with the character of Finn, who is having his, illumination of the light side, and his, conscience coming out at this moment, where he refuses to go along with mass murder. In other words, Finn is a guy who's proving that when they say, I was just following orders, that's not a good enough excuse, and Kylo Ren is the guy who is giving those orders. Then, as a member of the First Order, Kylo is shown being complicit in the mass murder of several planets, billions of people. Now, for the record, this is just like Vader when he watched Alderaan get blown up, and it is supposed to be something where apparently the original script is supposed to say that he doesn't actually want to blow up the planet and all that, but that didn't make it to the film. You know what did make it to the film? The scenes where Kylo Ren gets hold of Rey and violates her mind while torturing her. I mean, we didn't see Vader torture Leia. We knew he was going to, and we knew he got some stuff from that, but we didn't actually see him, step forward, invade her personal space, start using, sexual assault-esque vocabulary, and then violate her mind violently with the Force. I mean, that is a creepy, creepy scene that does, if I can be honest, kind of poison the future for what they went with in the story. Then what happens after that? Oh, Kylo goes and confronts his father, Han. And we get basically a scene supposed to be like a reversal of Return of the Jedi with Luke and Vader. Where Luke managed to appeal to Vader on their familial relationship, and so Vader came back to the light. Here, Kylo murders his dad so he can make sure he stays in the darkness. That's bad. That's like a defining moment of, he evil, don't care about him. Then we have him fillet Finn's back while Finn's protecting Rey. That's also a big deal because we've had Finn being one of our main characters here, and he actually does have a good antagonistic relationship with Kylo, and he is being defiant and showing how he's grown to a hero here, and Kylo, toys with him, kind of sadistically hurts his shoulder, and so you cheer when Finn manages to tag Kylo, and then when Finn gets taken down and Rey comes back up, you're probably supposed to be cheering when she carves up his face. And yet, going forward, it's clear The Force Awakens is not what the Lucasfilm really wanted you to think about Kylo Ren. In fact, they don't really seem to have wanted you to care about Kylo Ren at all. Enter The Last Jedi. Now, there already is one major difference here, I think, between the way Rian Johnson saw Kylo Ren versus the way Lawrence Kasdan and J.J. Abrams created Kylo Ren The Force Awakens. Those two were thinking of making a good bad guy to kind of be like a counterpart to Vader, someone who could maybe even be better as a bad guy than Vader. You know, a bad guy. I think Rian Johnson was thinking much more along the lines of a Byronic anti-hero whose inner torture and charisma is so powerful you just can't look away from him. I also think he failed at that, but I do think there's a fundamental difference there. Kasdan and J.J. Abrams put Kylo Ren in a cool mask, had him act evil, kept on elevating his evil level as the film went on, and definitely wants you to cheer for Finn and Rey versus Kylo, and used Kylo as a foil to show how good Finn and Rey were. In contrast, Rian Johnson is like, hey, we got a few problems here. Finn, you need to stop caring so much about Rey. Rey, you need to care a lot more about Kylo. And Kylo, you're beautiful. Like, seriously, he loves Kylo Ren, or at least he loves what he and probably Lucasfilm prefer you to think of the character Adam Driver's playing. Ben Solo, a non-entity across 2.5 films, who is mostly just a hypothetical based around one simple idea. He's Han and Leia's boy. That must mean he's a good guy. And, oh, look at Adam Driver's lip wobble game. It's really good, guys. You should really think this guy is totally only one step away from being redeemed. Even though he murdered his father and, is otherwise a guy who is clearly wanting, dark side damnation. So, the story suddenly insists that even though Kylo has, tortured Rey, violated her mind, filleted one friend's back and murdered another, who's also someone who is like a father figure to her, and she really wants a father figure, so, literally, even intellectually, she shouldn't be able to understand Kylo. Well, Last Jedi's like, oh, but he's still charismatic. She'll still like him. He doesn't have to do anything except, barely brush off something about Han. Doesn't have to address Finn at all. Doesn't talk about how he violated her mind. No. It's totally fine. She can totally start following for him now. Now, as you can tell, I don't like The Last Jedi, and I do think this is where things started to go pear-shaped. Because if you're trying to replace the Finn and Rey dynamic at the heart of The Force Awakens with Kylo and Rey, you need to actually build a good dynamic here. Let me be clear. I don't actually think there's anything wrong with the concept of Rey and Kylo Ren as twin characters at the core of the sequel trilogy. I don't even think there's anything wrong with the idea they could have a romance or a relationship. But you need to actually execute that well, and you need to recognize that The Force Awakens kind of burned a lot of bridges and salted a lot of earth that you could try and use to make that happen without damaging Rey in the process. And The Last Jedi starts damaging Rey in the process. Suddenly, she can't have enough of a spine to really, understand Kylo's manipulating her. She can't have righteous anger at what he did to her because that would get in the way of her thinking he's cute. And she kind of has to be, super gullible and, dumb to kind of fall for his plans. Rian Johnson kind of twisted Rey from being a strong survivor action girl into more of an ingenue type character, like the one he had in Knives Out, where that worked, by the way. Knives Out is a good movie. And now we're trying to do that with Rey, and that doesn't really work. She's gone through a rough life. She's a tough person, and she really should just kind of hate Kylo. But The Last Jedi is no. She should care about Ben. And then, of course, The Last Jedi is apparently trying to do some kind of sleight of hand. Oh, don't worry. He's still evil. She knows that now. And now she knows she can't make that mistake again. A mistake that only exists because the film basically kind of screwed up her character to get her there. And also left Kylo Ren in a position that is fruitful in one way. Supreme Leader is a good idea to go with him. And I'm really, really, really good about that. And I'm sad the Rise of Skywalker didn't do it. But at the same time, he's kind of now in that bad place. He's not a good enough person to really be a heroic protagonist. His relationship with Rey doesn't make sense. But they've also actually kind of demoted him as an antagonist, so he's not as good of a bad guy anymore. The Last Jedi is trying to go for a pseudo anti-heroic path for him, and that doesn't work with The Force Awakens. And it's not really what they want to go with in The Rise of Skywalker either. What does The Rise of Skywalker want to do? Have its cake and eat it too. It wants Kylo Ren to be the super evil good bad guy for a while, and it also really wants Ben Solo to be this perfect, so valuable character we can sacrifice so much stuff for because he's so worth it. Rey can totally fall in love with him, even if Kylo's the one she's actually known the entire time. And so we get this kind of new story in The Rise of Skywalker. I don't think Rian Johnson really felt there was anything, mystical or crazy behind why Ben Solo became Kylo Ren. I think he felt, honestly, that, it kind of makes sense. He's like a rebel, rebel at heart, like a teenager going through adolescence, and he just made the wrong choices, and he's still sympathetic. And I think J.J. Abrams came in and went, that's not going to work. There's nothing sympathetic about that. We need to change this up. I'm going to go back to The Force Awakens, and I'm going to change up what Kylo Ren is. Kylo Ren isn't the real person. Kylo Ren is some kind of weird schizophrenia created by Palpatine. Which is why in the first, 5 minutes, not only is Kylo demoted from main bad guy because Palpatine's back now. Yes, Dark Empire remake, baby. Bad Dark Empire remake. But we also have him say, yes, I've been inside your head, Kylo. I've been speaking to you. So you were hearing the voices of Vader and all that. Yes. So you're not real, but you're my pet. So do what I say. Which means that now we apparently have a situation where Lucasfilm and J.J. Abrams feel that all they really need to do to make Ben Solo's redemption work is flip a switch. Hey, look, Kylo's gone. It's Ben Solo now. But that doesn't really help the situation. Because if you actually watch the film, it's another 45 minutes of Kylo Ren being a horrible, horrible person who's, invading Rey's space and aggressively assaulting her and trying to, compel her to be his, dark side queen, which is, kind of going with everything else about him. Textbook abuse, I believe, but it's an abusive relationship that started with the abuse and the violence and the assaulting and never really got the, honey hook, whatever, that's supposed to actually, bring people into an abusive relationship. It's like he keeps hurting her, and the script of the 3 films is like, yeah, but she'll like that eventually, unfortunately. And at the same time, when they actually want to pull off the redemption, J.J. Abrams is smart enough to know we can't really just have Rey, appeal to him because that didn't work in The Last Jedi. And also, people still hate him because we had him murder Han. So you know what we should do? We should sacrifice Leia to bring him back. That's right. You know what Ben Solo is worth to us in The Rise of Skywalker? He's worth Han's death, Leia's death, bringing Harrison Ford back to kind of undo, the scene where they died. Because, if we have Kylo forgive himself through some creepy mind hallucination, that'll surely make that thing come off well. And you know what? He's also worth demoting Finn because Finn's not a white Force user. Yes, I'm kind of insisting there may be some racism going on underneath there, but I'll come back to it later. And at the same time, he's also worth twisting and comporting Rey to make sure that her story makes no sense at all. Let's face it, they basically kill off Leia, have that, freak out Ben, have Rey stab Ben, oh no, Kylo Ren is now theoretically dying so I can be resurrected by Rey. Which also, by the way, doesn't make sense because Rey's resurrecting a mortal enemy as far as she knows, while her friends are still on the Death Star wreckage and he could still hurt them. But we can't focus on that. She has to go and try and back up the story of The Last Jedi for 5 minutes and then go do something. And then they're like, I'm Harrison Ford. You should forgive Ben Solo now. He's good in my book now. Well, theoretically. I'm not a Force ghost. I'm more of a hallucination or something. But I'm sure it's okay if he forgives himself and just flips over to Ben Solo. I'm Ben Solo now. I won't say anything. Except, ow. And apparently that's what we're supposed to be happy about. That we traded several original trilogy characters, Rey's spine, Finn as the leading character, and Kylo Ren's worth as the bad guy for the sake of Adam Driver in 5 minutes of monosyllabic improv. That's it. And apparently that character is worth a kiss with Rey. And I'll be honest here. I do think The Rise of Skywalker makes the situation from The Last Jedi worse. At least The Last Jedi, for all the problems I have with it, tried to end the story suggesting that, Rey will learn her lesson now. And she learned that she wasn't actually talking to Ben, she was talking to Kylo. The Rise of Skywalker, since they apparently felt that without Rey being a Skywalker, they need her to value their only Skywalker grandkid, hard. They went ahead and just said, like, I want to hold Ben's hand, a person I've never met at all, inside the horrible monster who's kept on hurting me and my friends and is mostly just a genocidal maniac. But the second the genocidal maniac is gone, I'll kiss him. Like, that's not good. You've sacrificed basically all three main actors' best skills for, what? A subpar kiss that even fans of Rey and Kylo getting together don't really think is enough? I mean, that's kind of the cancer at the heart of the sequel trilogy if you don't like it. They didn't know what to do with Finn, they didn't know what to do with Kylo, and they wound up wrecking up Rey in the process.